This is dangerous. Disney's ABC just pulled Jimmy Kimmel live after his comments about Charlie Kirk, and the FCC chair piled on, hinting at regulatory punishment. And this is exactly why I will often assign Snowpiercer as homework to students, because that film is one of many that adds basically a blueprint for how propaganda and narrative control can work. So buckle up, students. Professor Barger's in, and I'm black at it again. Welcome back to TikTok Comms Analysis class, where we don't just talk about communications, we decode the patterns frame by frame, word by word. If you're new here, I'm Amira Barger, consultant, professor, author, and your fearlessly authentic bestie. I also just had surgery and some biopsies, and I'm mostly fine, so ignore this little friend of my many friends, but this is the one you can see. But that wasn't going to keep me from y'all, so let's get into it. So in Snowpiercer, the last of humanity is trapped on a train. An order is maintained by a story. The people in the tail are told that that's where they belong, and the front is told that they deserve their privilege, and everyone believes survival depends on staying in their assigned place. That story is propaganda. The real power isn't the train's engine, it's the myth that justifies the suffering, keeps people compliant, and erases anyone who challenges the order. That's why I tell students to watch it again. It shows how narratives, not just direct violence like guns, keep systems alive. So look at Jimmy Kimmel, right? He didn't just get criticized, his entire show was yanked, and regulators are threatening him. And that's not debate over ideology or values, that's fascism in action. Burying some truths, amplifying others, and erasing the voices that disrupt the story. So here are 4 ways to recognize when the train is running on propaganda, with some Snowpiercer examples. 1, when regulators threaten to revoke licenses or any other credential that is granted over speech. That's the conductor sort of saying, step out of line and you're off the train. In Snowpiercer, order is enforced not just with violence, but with the threat of being thrown into the frozen world outside the train. And so one misstep and you're exiled into this instant death. And that mirrors how regulators wield power. If they hint they'll take away or a license or an accreditation or speech, they don't have to debate you. That mere threat keeps most people in line enough. And it's the same psychology, right? Obey or lose your place on the train. 2, when shows disappear overnight after pressure from powerful people or groups, that's the same as the front cars in the train hiding the engine's secrets from the tail of the train. The truth is buried, so order holds. And the people in the tail section don't know how the engine really works. They're fed a partial story. The engine is eternal, it's sacred, it's untouchable. And that myth keeps the hierarchy intact. In our world, when a show or a voice suddenly disappears after political or corporate pressure, it's the same tactic. Bury the messy, complicated truths so the story stays clean and power stays stable. 3, when the narrative is, this speech is too dangerous to allow, you're watching the story be weaponized, just like the endless announcements on the train. Throughout the film, the loudspeakers broadcast constant messages about the sacred engine and the dangers of disorder. And those announcements are propaganda, warning passengers that the questioning of the system will lead to destruction. And that's exactly how it works off-screen. When officials or networks say certain speech is too dangerous, they weaponize fear to justify control. It's not about safety. It's about making people accept silence as protection. 4, when people start self-censoring before they even speak. That's the quiet obedience that keeps the whole system moving. In Snowpiercer, that obedience is why rebellion is so rare. Most of the passengers never challenge their conditions, not because they're content with them, but because they've absorbed the propaganda that this is your place. Rebellion is suicide, and the train can't survive without order, and that's self-censorship. And in our world, the same happens when people don't even try to voice dissent because they fear the backlash. Propaganda doesn't need to silence you if it convinces you to silence yourself. That's how the system sustains itself. So what in the world can all of us do in real life? Promote counter speech. That's the first thing you can do. So don't let one story dominate. So if a show gets pulled or a voice gets silenced, share and uplift other perspectives. So when certain books, for example, were banned from schools, entire communities started book clubs to read those books together. That's counter speech, keeping the conversation alive. The second thing we can do is demand transparency. We can ask, what rule was broken or law? And if no one can answer that, that's control, not accountability. So think about when social media posts vanish with no clear reason. If a platform can't explain why a piece of content was removed, what community guideline it violated, that's a red flag. In Snowpiercer, the passengers never get the full story of the engine, and it's secrecy. That secrecy keeps them compliant. The third thing is support creators who take risks. So propaganda works best when the dissenters are isolated. So when no one is targeted, the goal is to scare others into silence when someone is targeted. And that's why it matters to back comedians, journalists, or artists who challenge the narrative, just like in the movie Snowpiercer, right? The tell section rebels only gained momentum when they stood together. And above all, don't obey in advance. Don't self-police your own words out of fear. That's the tell section, believing it belongs in chains and belongs to stay there forever. In the film, most passengers don't rebel. Not because, again, that they love their conditions, they don't, but because they've been taught that questioning them is pointless. In our world, when you hold back your opinion because you're afraid of backlash rather than because you're wrong, you've already done the censor's work for them. Censoring isn't protection, it's propaganda, it's overreach, and once you see the pattern, you can't unsee it. So go do your homework, rewatch Snowpiercer. It's not just entertainment, it's a lesson. Systems of power run on stories. Change the story and you change the whole train. So do your homework, then look at the headlines again, and you'll see exactly why all of this matters.